Welcome to this week's Cattle Call. I'm Susan Littlefield on the Rural Radio Network. Lots of craziness happening in the trade. A lot of, I like it, turf to cover and turf that was covered within the trade for a Wednesday. We saw some bids at 122. Did it last there? We'll find out the details. Add to it the bullishness of the markets that we saw after the USDA report. How has that affected the way we see the cattle trading? Just the tip of the iceberg as we talk with Brad Kooima. You can see him on the screen. He's with Kooima and Varlick out of Sioux Center, Iowa. So we do have to start. Lots of turf, you said, covered.
Oh boy, did we ever. And I'm afraid, if you're hoping for an analyst to give you this nice little cut and dried explanation of how we traded and how the spreads acted, I'm probably going to fail pretty badly today. Market did surprise me just a little bit. Initially, just talking the cattle news, we come in kind of with an attitude again that we're seeing some pushback from retail H&R trade. The unbelievable pace and volume of beef trade that we'd seen earlier this year has slowed. That is not the first time that's happened this time of year. We're entering a time here where BLTs, hot dogs, hamburgers, sort of thing. Restaurant trade slows up once people stay home and grill their own stuff. To see some further weakness in the beef, or to hear some talk that maybe there's just a little bit of meat sitting around here for a second, shouldn't surprise us. But that was kind of the tone. And then when you started out of the day, you had one of the major packers in the South with a limited 122 bid, where they're allowing their buyers to just buy a few. I didn't think the market was too enthralled with that, because that's kind of a steady at best, really maybe a hair softer tone. And then there was some further trade that developed in the South all the way down to 120. Actually, probably more cattle trade at 120 than at 122. And, the market traded heavy at that point with the front end of the market some lower. Now, the North actually good for us, who still trade a few cash cattle and hold out a little bit. There were some bids that started to surface at 124, 4.5, and then some cattle traded as high as 125, even to some of the majors. And I think that seemed to get the market back on its feet. So that part of it, I guess, all makes sense a little bit. The part that was surprising to me and still is the way the spreads acted after we had that very, very bullish grain report, limit up corn. And I was surprised. I'm happy to see it, but I was surprised to see the front months. Actually, the August cattle being the strongest one up there. Typically, it wouldn't go that way.
To say, did you get the reaction initially you thought you would have seen on the livestock side after those grain numbers were changed?
Initially, I did. Sharply lower feeder cattle. You tilted the market from back to front, where the December, February cattle were stronger. August cattle a little lower, and I mean, that's old school, but that would be what one would expect if you go back into this high price feed environment. July corn made new contract highs today. That typically what you see is a highly incentivized feedlot to sell cattle and go ahead, get rid of them, dump them. I don't want them, get them out of here. It's going to be super hot. I want them gone. So, I don't know. I guess that's still going to be what I guess I expect looking forward into next week, where you're going to maybe see just a little easier trade in the cash market, mostly influenced by hot weather and by, the cost of gain. I'm not all bared up. I don't think that the industry here dares or expects to try to save a whole bunch of money, given all the political pressure that's going on. And I like the back months better than the front months, but it's 4th of July, sometimes we chop wood here a little bit before we start to get things a little bit better.
Well, speaking of 4th of July, consumers meat demand, we've kind of hit, to me, midsummer. We're only a month away from some kids going back to school. What are we seeing consumption wise out there?
Yeah, yuck. It's hard. The summer goes fast. The older I get, the faster it goes. I think that one can still expect that we're going to continue to have very, very robust demand, and from all sectors. I think you're going to see it from the retail trade. The Hy-Vee, the Fairway, the Costco, Walmart trade, where you changed that paradigm a long ways during COVID, where you trained, I think, a consumer to learn how to cook his own again and likes it and finds out that he's got a lot of room left in his food budget when he does that. But I also think that, as you're coming out of this COVID thing, we still are social creatures, right? And then sometimes we want to go out to eat. And so the domestic demand, I'm confident, will stay fine. Global demand, I think, is even better than that potentially, as you continue to see, the rest of these big countries, getting back on their feet post-COVID. And countries with a little bit of money to spend and a more middle class type of taste bud, right? So I demand side, I'm confident we get through 30 days here and we'll start to get a little better action here, and that's not the problem. It's again the continued battle of how do you gain a little leverage so that we get the packer to share his slice of the pie.
All right, sounds good. Have a great 4th of July weekend, Brad.
You too.
That's this week's Cattle Call. Just a reminder, commodity futures and options involve substantial risk of loss and they're not suitable to all investors. I'm Susan Littlefield right here on the Rural Radio Network.